Alright, so I'm back with another reading video, and I'm on page 59, same book, same topic, different topic, different chapter, and I'm gonna start. We're gonna do 15 minutes a day. We're gonna do 15 minutes a day. Feel me? Starting now. These days, men are asked to reevaluate the relationship between masculinity and vulnerability. Wait, I read this already. Okay. In the past few years, we have made great strides in embracing mental black health. In the black community, the growing interest among black men has been boosted partly because high-profile rappers such as Lil Wayne and Kid Cudi have publicly discussed their mental health challenges. More and more black men now realize that many of us have mental health challenges and we need to acknowledge them honestly as the initial self-care step to managing them. Historically, people with mental health issues have been stigmatized in the black community. The reasons for this are complicated on both societal and individual levels. For those with treatments needs, there have been concerns about stigmatization and a very real fear of what would happen if they went to the exam room of mental health facility. This stems from an awareness of medical experimentation on African Americans, among them the infamous Tuskegee experiment, a federal health project from 1932 to 1972. Federal officials inflicted many unknowing black men with syphilis and left them untreated to study the long-term effects. Considering such events, you can easily understand why the National Alliance on Mental Illness has stated that only 30% of black men get the mental health care they need in the United States each year. Also, when you're not exposed to information on mental health, it is hard to determine whether you need treatment. Fortunately, more black men are now willing to learn about mental health and what untreated mental illness looks like in real life. After learning these facts, black men can then make an honest self-assessment of their condition. A good place to start is to take an inventory of how you've been feeling. For many black men, even taking a few minutes to do this feel unnecessary or like luxury, or you may feel uncomfortable recalling incidents or thoughts that raise red flags about your condition. It may not feel easy, but it is an important step. This is important because mental health impacts everything in your life. Treatment can help you understand how you feel and why about the world around you, your relationships, and your workspace. This is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It is also urgent because the mental state of black men can be affected by discriminations over racism and the ongoing spate of racially motivated daily physical attacks. Come on, bro. Okay. I ain't y'all get that. Oh, bro. Alright, man, I'm good now, man. Rethink the strong black man trope. Liberation is about freeing yourself to create a life of outcome that you want. To do that, you will need to resist the trope of always being the strong black man. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be a strong black man. It's not necessarily problematic, yet there is also an unwavering belief that black men are the prototypes of strength and stability. Why do many people believe that? And more importantly, what does that belief cost you? Let's start with why. The truth is that none of us would be here without the strength and mental fortitude of our ancestors. Yet we often forget that much more than the stereotypical idea of strength got us to where we are today. Black men have had to be strong to survive in the world. You may live in a neighborhood that requires you to protect a particular kind of strength of masculinity so that you don't become someone's next victim. You need another strength, mental fortitude, to walk into a boardroom as the only black man present. However, there is so much more to black men's strength than these examples. Most men are taught that to be unwavering and absolute. If you try to live up to that definition, it can create tightly wound tension that releases itself by being stereotypical strong instead of wise. Yes, good judgment can also be a strength. You also need resiliency, another strength, and the power of empathy to relate to people in difficult situations. It also takes strength to ask for help because no one can do it all alone. Not even the strongest black man. You need to recognize that no man can do everything perfectly all the time. You need space to mess up and fall apart too. Once you do, you have to be strong enough to put yourself back together again. A single-minded definition of strength goes against what is known about survival and growth. No being can move forward without the help of others. No being can dole out strength and protection 100% of the time. The best example of this is Mother Nature herself. There is natural rhythm and ebb and flow of strength and weakness, of damage and recovery. This is how the world continues to spin despite the harm being done to it daily. When was the last time you acknowledged the hurt you were carrying? Also, when was the last time you made time and space to recover? Give yourself space to cry. Crying is often seen as a sign of weakness as well as womanlike, but that could not be further from the truth. In my experience as a therapist, crying can give you a cathartic release. Black men don't assess this enough. While you may not necessarily see crying as weak, think about the number of times you've seen another black man cry. More than likely, that number is tiny, and there's a reason for that. You can recognize that cultural standards make crying a difficult emotional response for most black men. It's not seen as a valid reaction to anything that's emotionally heavy. However, you also recognize that some things do rattle you or cause you pain, right? That begs the question, where does all the pent up energy and feeling go? You can free yourself from this emotional straitjacket by allowing yourself to express your sorrow or unhappiness. If you can start to allow yourself the mental room to cry, you can express and release what's inside. Without this kind of release, internal tension increases. This produces stress and contributes to declining physical health. And for black people, chronic stress has been linked to high blood pressure and heart problems. It might be hard to imagine that crying is okay for anything other than a funeral for a lot of men. There are also plenty of us so disconnected from how we feel in those heavier moments that even then tears don't fall from our eyes. Self-care requires you to allow yourself fuller range of emotions. Considering that organizations and institutions involved in wellness are largely white and very female, there should be no surprise that very few black men participate in their health programs. Unfortunately, this means we black men often miss out on very practical techniques to better our mental health, like the GLAD strategy. This daily practice can help you acknowledge the positivity in your life, providing a much needed buffer for the real world stresses around you. The GLAD acronym stands for Gratitude, Learned, Achieved, and Delight. It's the simple practice of writing down things you feel grateful for or one thing you have learned or something you have achieved or accomplished and one thing you've just found delightful. That's it. You write one thing for each of those letters. No matter how big or small, important or not, the idea is to make this a regular practice, possibly daily, to get the best results. As you practice gratitude regularly, the theory is that you will begin to notice more positive things more often. Essentially, you're training yourself to see more positive by practicing seeing the positive consistently. This helps you adjust your perspective and improve your mood in just a few minutes per day. Gratitude has become a popular tool in mental health self-care due to the positive psychological movement of the 1980s. Instead of focusing on mental health from a pathological perspective, such as focusing on what's wrong with you, positive psychological seeks to explore or practice the things we need to generate happiness. This kind of positive psychologically can appear disconnected from people's real lives, especially when it's presented with glossy magazine type images by white influencers. It can look like not living in the real world, but that doesn't mean that there isn't something positive to take away. We just have to dig a bit deeper to see if how it can apply to us. Gratitude as a practice is likely one of those things you've come across online with roots in Eastern traditions such as Buddhism. A gratitude practice involves consciously making note of things that are good and positive in your life. This can be hard to do if you don't think there's much positive in your life at the moment. This can be of great value to black men because there are so many negative experiences. It can be difficult to acknowledge the good things happening in your life, but there's always good things, no matter how small, to pay attention to. For some people, the idea of simply saying what you're grateful for feels too flat and disingenuous when other things are going on. I appreciate the GLAD technique because it involves more than saying I'm grateful for X. If you were to look at the mental statistics for black men, you would notice that the rate of depression among black men is low at around 5 to 10% as of 2023. Even when compared to black women, around 14%. Do you think black men are less susceptible to depression than black women and other groups? While that might be nice to believe, it's probably not true. Statistics themselves are facts, but it always makes sense to take time to think about them critically. Researchers have suggested that part of the reason why the rates of depression among black men are so low is that there simply aren't enough men coming forward and talking about their mental health. That's one reason black men who believe they are depressed should get medical screening to determine whether they have the condition. Depression disrupts the brain's ability to think rationally. It can easily make you think that there is something deeply wrong with you, as in I'm just not a good person. Over personalizing emotional pain is a significant threat to black men's mental health. It reinforces self-critical thinking and keeps you from getting the help you need. If you have been struggling recently, have you considered that depression isn't a moral feeling but a response to ongoing societal pressure, trauma, and discrimination? There is a common misconception that for someone to be depressed, they must feel sad or down. This is certainly true for many people who deal with depression, but not for everyone, especially black men. Depression tends to look different on black folks. Instead of appearing sad, a depressed black man may be more likely to experience ongoing anger and irritability. He may also get through his days by not feeling very much at all. Numbness, I'm cool, is one of the most socially acceptable ways for black men to cover up a feeling numb and disconnected. If this sounds like you, then it might be worth exploring if you may be dealing with depression. Depression is not a one-size-fits-all condition, but more to a cluster of symptoms of different depressive conditions that can sound alike. Taking an assessment can help provide insights and clarity. We black men have a complicated relationship with our bodies. On one hand, we are taught to believe that our bodies are pillars of superior strength and sexual energy. On the other hand, as the bodies inevitably change, our health issues arise. It can be difficult to look at yourself with the same kind of pride and admiration. Part of the problem is our over-identification with the body. This stems from the slave trade. As enslaved Africans were kidnapped, and so they lost the right to do what they pleased with their bodies during slavery. Black men were referenced based on how big or small they were and how many hours they could labor in a day before collapsing. Black folks were made to ignore their body cues and exhaustion and the need for more sustenance and better working conditions. In some ways, the black body became a production and unit. It was a mean for white slavers to enrich themselves. Stories told by slave owners focused on the brute strength and savage sexual nature of black men because their so-called owners also wanted more future slaves. Unfortunately, this is one way and slavery continues to negatively impact the psyche of the black man today. Many of us have unconsciously internalized these kind of values. There's nothing wrong with having pride in physical strength, endurance, and sexual ability. However, adopting a healthier relationship with your body requires looking at it more comprehensively instead of reducing the value of your body to your capacity to move heavy objects or sexually satisfy a partner. Consider the other things that your body does and how it enriches your life and live those around you. What does that mean exactly? It means that your body is the vessel that carries you throughout your daily life. It's more than what makes you valuable in the eyes of greater society. The capitalism, your body enables you to support yourself and your family on a personal level. It enables you to do or experience things you enjoy, from listening to music to creating art, exploring the beauty of nature around you. So that's it. Okay. And off on page 72. If you watch this, I appreciate you. I hope you was listening and you gained something from it, because I did. And that's the end of the video. Peace.